All right, so we are in Algebra 1. Today's lesson is 3-7, slopes or slope and intercepts in context. Oops, that's the wrong button. Today's date is Monday, October 19th, 2020. Our objective today is to do what? Ripley.
Interpret problems and graphs to determine the meaning of the slope, X-intercept, and Y-intercept.
There it is, yeah. So it's these interpret questions, which are that higher level of don't just do a procedure, but actually figure out what you've been doing to do that. So my hint for you guys for these problems is intercepts will always be an amount. So I'll write the word amount here. So some fixed number. And Carlos, if you could pull back your hood, Carlos, your hood. Thanks. And slope will always be some sort of ratio. That means you're looking for these keywords. If you see the word per or if you see the word each, that means it is definitely a slope. So per or each. Let's see this one. I used students from last year in this question. Example number 1, can someone read for us, please, with a quiet raised hand? Diego, go for it.
We will graph the relationship between his cell phone battery percentage and the time he plugged in his phone.
Yep. Can you read the which feature?
Which feature of the graph represents how charged his phone was as he plugged into his phone?
All right. And I'll repeat that question because it's kind of important. I'm looking for how much charge I have. Am I at 8% battery for my phone right now? I guess I can actually pull out the phone. Am I at 11%? What feature represents how much battery I have? This is our graph. You can see that 25% is there, 50%, 100%. You can see it's 100% after this amount of time. What feature on this graph represents how much charge he had before he started plugging in this phone? And you have these choices. It's either slope, X-intercept, Y-intercept, or none of the above. So everyone is going to, in about 10 seconds, you're going to vote 1, 2, 3, or 4. Everyone's going to take a guess. Even if you're wrong, it's okay. What are you thinking? Okay, everyone guess. A, B, C, or D. Interesting. Looks like 2 people have it correct. The correct answer here is the Y-intercept. What happened to my pen? It's the Y-intercept. So before I plug in my phone, that means I'm at an amount. What amount of battery do I have? If I am talking about an amount, which I said back up here, amount means it's going to be an intercept. That means it's either going to be a Y-intercept or an X-intercept. And in fact, if I interpret the graph, if I come down here, Ugo has 25% battery before he plugs it in. That is my starting amount. And then he charges his battery at a certain rate, which would be the slope. And then there is no X-intercept. The X-axis is down here. It never crosses the X-axis. So there is no X-intercept. So really, we could have eliminated B from the very beginning. Y-intercept. All right. How much did you understand of that with a fist of 5? Oh, those are high numbers. Okay. Let's try another one. I need a different, beautiful voice to read. Ripley, go for it.
Ladia and Esha are obtaining out long answers from Ms. Taylor. Esha graphs the total number of pages of graphs they have printed and how long it takes to print. It is taking to print.
Okay, and what does the
X-intercept represent in this context?
There it is, and let me zoom in here too. Not that much. All right, so everyone on your paper, point to the X-intercept. Touch the X-intercept, and then look over at your neighbor. Are they touching the X-intercept? Touch the X-intercept. Now look at your neighbor. Are they touching the X-intercept correctly? What they should have touched is down here, this X-intercept. That's the X-intercept. It's where it crosses the X-axis. So what does that point represent? This point that says 15, 0. in the context of our story, what's going on here? Is it how many pages were printed each second? Ooh, I'm going to underline this keyword here. There's this keyword each. How does each second? Okay. How long it took for Haziel's essay to print? Okay, that's an amount, which might be an X or Y intercept because it's a length of time. It's an amount of time. C, the number of pages in Haziel's essay. Okay, that's a number, that's an amount again, which is an X or a Y intercept. And then none of the above. It's probably going to be between B and C just because those are both amount words, amount of time or amount of pages. What makes more sense here? All right, I'll give you guys, I'll give you this hint also. Look at these words over here. Pages of Esha's essay, minutes since Haziel started printing. It's this X-Intercept. It's between B and C. 5 seconds we're voting. You're going to either do 2 or 3 or 4, I guess, if you think it's still none of the above. It's definitely not A. A is slow. All right, everyone guess. Is it B or is it C? Is it 2 or 3? All right. So, yeah. So let me underline this word next. I think this will help us. This is minutes since Haziel started printing, and this is pages of an essay. If this is minutes, this axis, this x-axis represents time, which means this is a time value. One of these is talking about time. This is how long it took in terms of time, and this is how many pages. So the correct answer here is C. It's 3. So pat yourself on the back. You got it correct. Good job. You always need to match up the words in terms of what they're meaning in terms of amount of time versus quantity with whatever the axis is representing. Let's try another one. All right, I need a third beautiful voice. Who wants to read? Third beautiful voice. Sorry, Diego. Sorry, please. Someone else. Someone new. Who wants to read? Alden, go for it.
Kara is practicing her 400-meter dash, and Jade is timing her. Kara runs toward Jade at a constant rate. The distance that Kara is in front of Jade is relations to time that is graphed below. Negative distance is the distance behind you.
And then, yeah, the question is, what does the slope represent in this context? Okay, so now it's telling us, hey, we're talking about slope. So maybe we want to underline, it's not the x-intercept, it's not the y-intercept. We're talking about slope, which means we should be looking for the words each or every. Is it cada segundo? Is it every second? How often are you doing an amount per time? All right, let's read your choices. How many meters Kira is running? That sounds like an amount to me. The distance where Kira passes Jade, again, that's an amount of distance. The time that Kira passes Jade, again, it's an amount of time. Or the speed in meters, which also kind of sounds like an amount. Which of these could be slope? And I'll give you this hint again. When you're thinking of slope, you want to maybe think of the formula that we've been talking about, delta y over delta x. Well, what is y and what is x? Y is meters, and x is seconds. All right, everyone take a yes. 1, 2, 3, or 4. What does slope represent? Everyone has to guess. Alden, Diego, Ashley, guess. Carlos, guess. All right, so the correct answer here is D. So why? Again, let me write this down for a note because I think it's important. So if I think about slope, slope in terms of our equation is the change in y divided by the change in x. Y, as I pointed out on our axis, y is meters. Y is the axis that runs up and down. It's that vertical axis. So that means our change in y in terms of units is meters. And our change in x, our x-axis, the one that runs left and right, the horizontal axis, is seconds. So I'm looking for something that has units of meters per second. One of these is in meters per second, and it says it right here, meters per second. It has the correct units. And in general, if you see the words, if we want to come back and add to our notes, maybe if I come to the very front, other words that could be for slope, slope could be per or each, or it could also be these two words. It could be speed or velocity. Those are all words that mean slope. So when I come back down here, I saw the word, a little bit further. When I see the word speed, that automatically indicates to me, hey, that's talking about slope. I didn't even need to have the correct units, meters per second. All right, so that's kind of like the first homework assignment. Can you guys give me a fist of 5 on examples 1, 2, and 3? How well did you understand those problems? Oh, those are pretty high scores. I think the lowest I see is a 3. Okay, yeah, very nice. I would say the average is about a 4. All right, and then this one is a second type of example. It's kind of the same thing in a different wrapper. Yesenia, do you want to read your own problem?
Yesenia painted the room after 4 hours of painting at a rate of 10 square meters per hour. She had 30 square meters left to paint. Let Y represent the area in square meters left to paint after X hours. Which of the following information about the graph of the relationship is given?
All right, so these types of questions for the second homework assignment, they will always give you 2 pieces of information, always. You have to decide what are those 2 pieces of information. Are they the slope in X-intercept, slope in Y-intercept, slope in some other point that's not an intercept? Is it maybe just an X and Y-intercept? Is it a Y-intercept and a point that's not an intercept? Or is it just 2 points that are not intercepts? It's one of those options. Okay, so there is a word somewhere in this first paragraph that you should underline that means slope. See if you can find it. There's a word up here that means slope. Where is it? Somewhere in here. Where is it? I'm gonna call them someone that I haven't called them before. Sorry, guys. Slope. Jose, I haven't called on you this lesson. What word means slope? Yeah, there it is, per. Meters per hour. And there's also another word that means slope. There's actually 2 of them. Does anyone else see the second one? I'll give it to Ripley again.
Hours?
Not quite. Hours is just an amount. Zeke? Rate. Yeah, both of those words mean slope. So slope is definitely one of the answers. So anything that doesn't have a slope, get rid of. D doesn't have slope. E doesn't have slope, and F doesn't have slope. It's between A, B, and C because each of those mentions the word slope. All right. And there's something else that's been given to us. So what is the slope number? The slope number is 10. The slope is 10, which means we're also given some other information, 4 and 30. 4 and 30. Now you have to ask yourself, is 4 hours and 30 square meters left to paint, does that sound like an X-intercept, a Y-intercept, or neither? It's not an intercept. And you have to go back and revisit, what is the definition of an intersection? And I'll start with that question first. Who can remind me what is an X-intercept or a Y-intercept? It's where a certain value is something. Zeke?
An amount.
It's an amount, yeah, from the notes today, but I'm trying to think like even farther back. So I had a definition of, let's just do the X-intercept, I think, to make it more concrete. The X-intercept, move out of the way, Mr. Snell. The X-intercept is where some value is equal to some other number. What's the variable name and what number is that variable set equal to for the X-intercept? Ripley. Not quite. There's a, so not quite. I'm looking for a variable here. What variable is equal to some number here? Go for it again. Y is equal to what number? Has to be a very specific number. 0. And then again, the Y-intercept, just as a reminder, the definition is what? Someone else. What's the definition of a Y-intercept? It's something equal to something. Yesenia. 0. Which means if I'm looking for an X or a Y-intercept, I should be looking for one of the numbers being 0. Let's come back up here. Neither of these numbers, 4 and 30, are 0. This is not an X-intercept and it's not a Y-intercept. Correct answer is C. Not an intercept. I wish I could give more examples, but I wanted to keep the notes to 1 page today. How did that last problem go? This was example number 4. Can you guys give me a fist of 5 on that last problem? I'm expecting kind of lower scores since I didn't give as many examples. Yep, 3s and 3s. Yeah, I would say our average is about a 3.1 maybe. Okay, but that's it for the notes. That's all we have. I'll put up the homework right now.